the FACTORYISH podcast. This is episode 2. And looking forward to diving into this. We're here with Zip. Welcome back, as always, our host. And we have Thomas. And welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Thomas, you have been a part of Street Metal Concepts now for how many years?
I think we tried to figure this out the other day. It's like 8? Yeah.
I think close to 8.
I think it's close.
If not, no, we're 8.
Yeah, I think it's definitely 8 now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, before we start into the show, we did bring a couple drinks. Do you like whiskey?
I'm never going to say no to whiskey.
All right. So this whiskey here is some whiskey my wife bought me for Christmas. And if you like peanut butter and you like whiskey, then you'll like that. I don't know how you feel on peanut butter.
Oh, peanut butter is amazing.
All right. Well, then give that a try. I'm actually going to grab a beer. I got Funky Buddha. I don't know. Have you ever had that before?
Yep.
It's local, like down in Florida, brew down South Florida. I've always liked the kind of the more German style beer.
I brought a Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Zip's not playing.
No. That's like the big boy drink?
Yes.
It's for adults that act like children.
That's a good way to put it. That's why they put the beautiful cartoon on the outside of it.
All right, well, cheers, fellas, to a good show.
That's pretty good.
All right.
That's not bad at all.
All right, so this week you were in Amelia Island at the Concours d'Elegance.
Yep.
So what'd you bring there?
We brought this 67 Lincoln behind us here. We participated in the Cars and Caffeine event and had it on display there. The owner, Fish Morgan, and his wife, Neely, came up to, hang out, and it was quite an event.
That's cool.
It was received very well. There was a swarm of people around the car pretty much all day. It was raining pretty heavily early in the morning. We got the car in the field about 7:30, and then we kind of have I got a group of guys there that every year we hang out there, and we do breakfast at the Ritz, and we're technically not supposed to be in there, but a buddy of mine has a little inside hookup, so we have this little spot at this one breakfast joint in there and have a nice breakfast and some Bloody Marys, and so we just hung out while it was raining, and Fish and Neely actually got there while we were at breakfast, so they joined us, and then the clouds parted, and we dropped the top and enjoyed the day. It was really good. Nice.
And the uniqueness of this Suicide Door Continental is what makes it factory-ish? Let's ask that question.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much factory as far as the body and trim it wears. It's the stance is slightly altered. This was a car that we planned to do in phases. So he bought a very nicely restored bone stock vehicle. Yeah. And it worked well, and it was in very good condition. But, it's an old, 462, I think. And
some big engine.
And it's an old car. It leaks oil. The power steering pump goes out on you. The starter goes out on you. It left him stranded more times than was fun for him. It was kind of knocking the enjoyment out. And he really wanted to make it a car he could use with less worry and just enjoy it. So he came to us and wanted to do a Coyote swap in it. So we ended up doing a Coyote in it, and a 6R80 transmission, automatic. Modified the tunnel. Future plans are to put it on air and redo all the suspension, lay it out. So we built the tunnel to accommodate the drive shaft going up that far. Yep. Did Dakota Digital instruments in it and vintage AC. We pushed the firewall forward 4.5 inches to accommodate the vintage AC in it. Yep. And so a little bit of engine bay fab. little cleanup on some of the wiring. We painted the engine bay kind of a textured matte finish to match the interior. And this, this is a cameo green is the color on this car, and it's classy. It's not a wicked black one like you always see. So the color, that caramel color interior, it just complements it well. So and Thomas and I are both suckers for bringing interior colors kind of where they shouldn't be, and and it works. I mean, everybody. It's funny because the interior, we're redoing the whole thing this summer, and everybody was commenting on how nice the interior was.
Yeah,
but it's
all coming out.
Right.
Well, it's in great shape.
Yeah,
and throughout the build too, the interior color that's there is not far off from the color that we're going to do.
Okay.
So, like you said, we complemented the engine color into the engine bay, or for the interior color. So now when the bay is open, it still looks very similar to the interior color that's there now.
I see.
So when it's all open, everybody's looking at it. I mean, the seats are in good shape, everything in good shape. It's just, it could be better.
Yeah. So how many other modified vehicles were at Amelia Island like that? Because typically that's a concourse style show.
Right. And, there's some coach built one-off vehicles there that were pretty impressive. The Factory-ish has a really good acceptance level in kind of all the realms, because like, for example, that 70 CUDA, we took it to a Mopar Nationals, and that car was heavily modified. I mean, everything was modified on that car. And Mopar guys, they can be pretty snobby, as far as the original matching number things. And, we kind of threw that out the window. But we paid special effort to make it look like it was original.
Right.
So it was actually more work than just customizing it. Then it was to hide that we were customizing it. And the Mopar crowd loved the car.
Yeah.
And it won Best in Show at that event. And I was surprised.
Yeah. So what other cars caught your eye at the show?
There's one vehicle there that was just the coolest thing. It was, I don't know what year it was, but it was a VW bus on tank tracks. And, it was just ridiculous.
That's funny.
It was not that nice, I guess, but it just had it had two front wheels with tires and then two rear wheels with tank tracks around them and one wheel opening the whole length of the bus.
No kidding.
And, someone put some work into it. We were pulling in on Friday for registration, and it was getting unloaded from a semi-truck, and we peeked in the side and saw it. We're like, oh, no way, that's a bus, and the next day it was on the field, and, it was just crazy. I mean, some of those cars there are, the first ever produced matching number serial number one, more money than any you can imagine. They're neat.
Yeah.
But factory cars, if you've seen it once, you've seen it.
Yeah,
there was 3 Enzos on the lake.
I know.
Like, how often do 3 Enzos hang out together?
Yeah.
I walked by them, and yep, it's an Enzo.
It's the same as it was last time.
Looks just like it does in a magazine.
Yep.
And everywhere else I've seen one. I don't know. I'm probably offending people by saying that, but
Well, the one year I went, they had Duesenbergs around the lake, and they must have had 8 Duesenbergs, and it was just mind-boggling how much money was there. And that same year, Mercedes had flown in from Germany, I think 3 or 4 gold wing door, Mercedes, all original, and it was cool. And then they always have like one section that's all race cars, it was like 60s era Le Mans style cars. So it was like watching. It takes you back to like the was it Steve McQueen that did Le Mans?
Yeah.
Wasn't it? I think it was. Yeah, it was super cool. It was awesome to see. And now the client that you did this car for, is he a repeat customer or a new customer?
Oh, he was new. As far as when we did this, we have lots of plans for more stuff to do. He just recently got a '79 Bronco, so that's more of his beach cruiser, kind of original patina truck that, I'm sure we'll be doing some repairs on. He's got some audio stuff he wants us to do in it, and, he's like, well, when this motor takes a, dump, we'll do something cooler.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I'm glad that was a success out there at the show, and hopefully we'll be able to repeat it next year and make it out there as well. So, Thomas, it's you said you've worked at Street Metal Concepts now for 8 years.
Yes, sir.
So you've butted heads with this guy a lot then.
Not a lot. I wouldn't say a lot.
You guys have worked together for plenty of
have.
times. You've worked through a lot of projects, a lot of tasks,
Yeah.
a lot
I
of
think
things.
we work together quite well.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, the few times that I've come over to the shop, it's kind of funny to watch you guys kind of like in sync, kind of like do the nod, like, hey, yep, that needs to be done. Hey, watch over there.
That's what
it
it's
works well.
pretty much about now. Is it's hard to read some people, but I know what he wants, and I know, like, if he gives me a detailed description of what to do, that I can accomplish it.
Yep.
We're like on the same page.
Okay.
And building things with him is very easy because he has a very artistic mind, and he can draw something out, and then I can just recreate it.
Yep.
Or I've been working with so long now that when we're in the shop with the guys, and I can be like, yeah, you need to change that or do that because that's not what Zip wants, and that won't fly.
Yeah.
And we always have our has to be rounded corners our rule for the shop. So we've been passing that around.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been fun, and
Awesome.
it's a very fun environment to work in. And like I said, if we didn't have such a great relationship on how to do things and how we communicate, then it would be a lot harder, but it's very easy for both of us.
So most everybody that's in this line of work, it was usually inspired by somebody, or somebody spent time with you, quality time, or whatever it was, invested in you to got your interest into this industry. Do you have a story or anything you like to share how you got involved building cars?
I was thinking about that, and I really don't. Some people are just drawn to it, and it started for me younger with bicycles. I loved BMX bikes. I rode bikes. I started taking them apart, putting them together. As a child, my parents would always tell me, you take your toys apart and put them back together, and take them apart and put them back together. I just fascinated with how things worked, and I wanted to figure out what was going on. I started out with BMX bikes. When I got older, I bought my first car at 13. And my mom was a strong person that would never give me anything, always wanted me to work for something.
Okay.
So I would have some type of respect for it.
Yep.
So at 13, I was mowing yards, and I bought my Camaro from my stepdad for $350. It did not run. It was the
What year
biggest
Camaro?
It was a 1980.
Yeah.
So it was a V6 Berwyn-Letta Camaro that was UPS brown.
Nice.
With a junkyard 305 in it.
Yes.
It even had Keystone wheels on it. It didn't even have Cragar SS's. It had the knockoff Cragar SS's on it.
Perfect.
So I bought that thing, and then it literally took till I was about 16 to get it up and running, and then I got it running, then I blew it up. Then my mom worked at a machine shop, and I was always frequently in there too, like looking over the guys' backs and seeing what was going on, and kind of I was just drawn to it,
Yeah.
Go through high school, decide I want to go to auto mechanics. Have almost 5 years of auto mechanics experience. Leave high school, go start working in a POPCA at a place called Zeek Certified Auto Repair. I worked there for a little while and realized I don't want to be an auto mechanic. Like this isn't fun. Like it was cool in school, but like to work on just Hondas and Cavaliers and come home and my nails are just covered in grease and grime. So after that, I went to custom car audio. So I went into that for a while, started going into shops that were more one-stop shops. So my hobby was mini trucks. We come from a strong mini truck background. And I believe the mini trucks for anybody in this industry is paved like this ridiculous way for any custom car builders, because back in the day we were trying to figure out how to make these trucks as cool as possible.
Yep.
we were shaving things that didn't need to be or had to be shaved. So we're learning body work. You're learning how to weld. Like all this stuff just revolves around this one little community. And to see people our age growing up now that are doing this, and they're like, oh, I used to build mini trucks when I was good. Like, it's like a thing that almost everybody in this industry has dabbled in. So started doing that, and then when I started going into these bigger car audio shops, we did, paint and body, and then we did rims and lowering, and then I started becoming like the head fabricator, box builder, painter, bodywork guy. And then
many hats.
Yeah, and then I was just like, you know what? I just would rather build cars now. You know, like the stereo stuff was cool. We had, fortunately, I was able to work at higher level car audio stores, so I was working on more exotic cars than just super ghetto poopties and whatnot. So that kind of helped me learn how to take things apart without breaking them. And like there was no YouTube back then. A Bentley Continental comes in, you're not going on YouTube. It's like, how do you take the dash apart in a Bentley Continental GT? I have no idea. So that kind of got me around to being able to be delicate with things and take my time. But nobody really inspired me to do it. I just, something that I wanted to get into.
Well, I've always said like the mini truck era, like late 80s, early 90s, that was almost like a new beginning, just like the Roadster. Guys that started in, doing the 32 Roadsters and everything else in the 50s. Like the 50s was that era of guys just cutting crap up, making just super cool things and making it fast. And it seems like the mini truck was like that repeat generation. Just
the people building the lead sleds, it's all just a generational thing. It's like these guys are building really cool 50s cars, and then we go like we're building cool 90s trucks.
That was, I kind of have a explanation for that in my head, at least. Back then, that's what they could afford to work on. And they got as creative as they could and made things cool. And, and that is now a traditional hot rod scene and, style. The mini truck was, we were broke kids. And, you could afford a crappy S10.
A Nissan hardbody.
And go to Fabric King and buy some material in Kmart and buy some Flexstone. And, and I was in auto body school, and so I could learn how to weld and do body work and modify my truck, and I got a Chilton's manual to learn how to fix my truck because I couldn't afford to go to a mechanic.
Same thing with when we would look back and look at mini trucking magazines or anything. Like I'm looking at this magazine and it's got a hardbody in it. I have a Nissan hardbody, and I'm like, man, I really would like to shave my tailgate like that and do the taillights. And then you go to your local shop, which there's only a handful. And they're like, yeah, we could do that. It's like, $20 grand. You're like, what? How am I going to afford that?
I think I'll do it myself.
Exactly. So, we're looking at these pages of these magazines. We don't know how to do it. We're like, what do you have to lose? You're 17, working, living at home with your mom, buying parts to try to fix your own truck. So
when I was in high school, I bought my grandfather's truck, and it was a 77 GMC, and everything on it was just absolutely perfect. It was a Nebraska truck, but he would literally always wash it. Like there was no rust in it, none whatsoever.
Yeah, that's completely opposite of what mine was. Far from perfect.
So I get this truck, and I decide, man, I'm taking all this chrome off, because it had the brake with the two-tone. So we peeled all that off, and there was, I don't know, 70-something holes that were filling and doing all the work. And the whole time, my dad was just like, you're killing this truck. You're ruining it. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, even when I got it from my grandfather, right, he had a cap over the tailgate, and he was like, hey, don't tell your grandmother, but I backed in and dented the tailgate, but that cap covers it, so don't ever tell her, right? So that's how pristine he had carpet on top of the carpet, you know what I mean? So I tear this thing apart, and we end up painting it, and my dad the whole time was just on my case, like, oh, you're ruining this truck. You guys don't know what you're doing. And the truck was yellow with that, cream color center, and as we're doing the body work, we're using black primer, so everybody called it the Screaming Cheetah, as I'm building this. And then one day my dad came to me and he was like, hey, paint, because I did all the body work and then he was just shooting it for me, and the guy that was shooting it, he's like, hey, you got to come take a look at this thing. And I'm like, oh crap. And we're driving, it was like a 40-minute drive to the paint shop, and he didn't say a single word the whole time. And I'm just like sweating bullets, you know. And I'm like, oh God, what's wrong with the truck? What did I do wrong? This guy is going to cost me another couple grand, whatever. And we get there and it's done, you know. And it was one of those moments where you turn the corner and it's like in the barn, and it was like, oh. And I look back and he's like, shit, it looks good, doesn't it? I'm like, it does. Because awesome. I painted it like a real deep, it was a Camaro color, you know, a deep with a lot of flake in it, blue, and it just looked awesome. Lowered it, of course, put hammers on it because that was the thing in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Hammers.
Yeah.
But it was a fun truck, man. And it was just one of those things that was just that generation. That's what, you know, similar story. That's what we did in high school. You know, it's funny, like in my high school, we had that car in our shop class. We had that in a Volkswagen Thing. You remember that?
Yeah.
And we would get that. We would get the Continental running, do donuts, blow it up or whatever. If something's not working, bring it back in. It was a blast, you know. But it was just such fond memories, and that's kind of, you know, how I got involved in, you know, building cars and doing that thing when I was in high school.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, the whole having to buy my first car helped teach me a lot, and then with my kids, same thing. So my son turned 13. And he got a lot of grades from school, and he was saving his money, so we bought his first car. So when my son Matthew, he bought a 95 Lexus SC 400, so it's a two-door sports coupe, V8 car. Transmission was bad. We did a 5-speed swap in it. They never made a 5-speed V8 car.
Okay.
So we built that, and then we bodyworked it and painted it and this, that, and the other. He is so terrified to drive that damn car, right? So it instilled a lot of respect for it that he had helped me throughout this time to build it. He was taking a friend and when he was in high school, he was taking his friend to a different parking lot at Mount Dora High School, and he'd never been over there before. So he takes his friend over there, and they're driving, and then he goes to back out, and he backs into a parking bump and rips the ground effect off the back. He was freaking out. So my wife texts me. She's like, listen, Matthew messed his car up. He's really upset about it. Please don't be mad at him when he comes. I'm like, I'm not mad at him. I know it's going to happen, right?
Right.
So I get back, and he shows me. I'm like, it's okay. Like, you know, you backed into something. Yeah, you backed into something.
I blew every ground effect off my S10.
I'm like, we can fix
twice.
It. Right? But, you know, it was always like I grew up with kids whose parents had money, and they turned 16, and they got a brand new car, and they were out there doing donuts and beating the shit out of it. And so, you know, both of my kids have such a respect. And even like I did when I was, you know, I had to make this thing work. And then, you know, like we were talking about all the time, what we do is such a, like, it's a dying art. Like we're having the hardest time finding people.
Yeah.
So even like, you always want better for your kids. They can go into something that makes way more money than what we make. But still for them to be able to have the knowledge to do, you know, half of what we do.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that they're very interested in it, and they're very hands-on, and, you know, we just need, you know, more people, more kids like that, so that we can continue to keep building these cars, you know. Not all of these cars you can take into a dealership and plug an OBD scanner into it and figure out what's wrong with it.
So how many kids do you have?
2. So I have 2 stepsons, and one's like 22 and the other one's 18.
Okay.
Yeah. They both have 2 cars each. They're both addicted like I am. Our house looks like a used car dealer. So we, it's bad. I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, at least, you know, I don't do drugs. I'm not addicted to drugs.
Yeah,
She's like,
right.
I don't know what's cheaper at this point.
A similar scenario. I got 6 kids, so I have a fleet. I take care of a fleet of cars.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, who needs an oil change? You know, but that's cool. And what cars does your kids have?
So Matthew has the 95 SC 400, and then he also has a 2000 Infiniti Q45 4-door V8, you know, luxury car. It's pretty cool. He put coilovers on it. It's lower. It's got wheels on it. Preston's first car he actually bought from our parts manager, Austin. He bought it when he was not even 13. He was like 12 and a half.
Yeah.
It's a Fox Body Mustang. So he bought a hatchback Fox Body Mustang from Austin, which was mechanically sound because Austin was very mechanically inclined. Body needed a little love, but drove beautifully. We started building that car when he was, you know, 13 years old, messing around with it here and there. And he's looking for parts one day on Craigslist, and he goes, man, I found a coupe body that I really want. Because he wanted the trunk car. He wanted the coupe, not the hatchback.
Yep.
And I'm like, how much is it? And he goes, it's $1,000. I'm like, well, that's pretty much a steal. Like, you can't even find them anymore.
Not anymore. Nope.
And I'm like, well, how much money do you have? And he's like, I have $400. I was like, all right, well, I have $600. I was like, I'll let you borrow it. You just, when you get money for your grades or Christmas, whatever, pay me back. And he's like, all right. So we drove to Christmas. Believe it or not, Biffalo is where this coupe was. Pulled it out of the yard, and then we took everything that was on Austin's car that we had already started messing with and just transferred it over.
Yeah.
So now he has that, and then he also just bought, he's been through a bunch of cars. He just bought a Lexus GS 300, so another luxury four-door car. He actually just graduated from pipe welding. So he's a pipe welder, and he just signed up with the union. So he went to Tennessee to get more schooling, and now he's in Kentucky right now working.
Nice.
So he works a couple of weeks off, comes home for a little bit, and goes back to work.
Yeah.
So he's into welding, which is really cool, because even before he went into the pipe welding, he was very interested in like MIG and TIG welding.
Yeah.
And he's helped me weld on his car and stuff, so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then your other son, you said he was 18, so still in school?
So so Preston must be 19 now. Matthew's 22, so they're both out of school. So Preston literally graduated at 18 and went straight, like didn't even take the summer off, went straight into Lake Tech for pipe welding.
Okay. Yeah. So he's the one that's doing that.
Yeah, so he's welding. So I think Matthew's going to go, he just signed up to go to computer science.
Nice.
I think he's what he's going to jump into.
That's cool. So you were working at stereo shops. You said you pretty much wore every hat. What was the journey, and how did you guys get connected?
That's a very funny story. So I was working for a family member who had a sandblasting company, and then he decided he was going to do a restoration company. And the last car audio place I worked at, my boss that I had worked at for 8-9 years too, merged with another gentleman, and me and that other gentleman didn't get along too much. So at one point in time, I was like, I got to go, before things get bad. And I was approached by another gentleman. He was like, oh, we should open a shop together, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'll do that. And I started working for him for a little while, and then that didn't work out. So my family member opened his shop, so I started to just help him out. And he was, he was a hobby restoration guy. He did it in his garage at home, and then he tried to open a business, and we were trying to help him out. And Zip came up one day, and he had some wheels to get sandblasted. And I was like, are you hiring? What are you doing over there? So sandblasted his wheels, and I was showing him a truck that I was working on, and we're looking at this truck, and he's looking at it, and then every flaw that he pointed out, he was like, well, what about this? And I was like, yeah, well, this guy made me build the truck with no doors. And he goes, what? And he was like, well, why are they door gaps? I'm like, because there was no door, so he built the whole truck with no door. So we're going through, and it was like everything he asked me I had to answer for. And then he was like, well, I'll probably have some openings soon. So we literally stayed in contact forever.
Okay.
So I would wait
I
a little
wasn't
while.
busy enough.
Yeah.
Like we had, I pretty much knew, like, man, I would love to have this guy, partner, and work with us. But I wasn't going to falsely get him to come over and not have enough work to give him a solid job. He had kids and a wife.
Which is the most respectful thing anybody's ever done. Is he was like, listen, if you're going to give me all you have for work, is I got to make sure that I have the work for you. And I was like, I respect that. Like if you don't have enough work, then it's cool.
Yep.
So I literally left that shop and went to another one, which was one of the worst shops I ever worked at, but I was making a little bit more money. So then I'm like, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go, hey, Zip, how's it going? Oh, yeah, we're getting closer. Well, then we're just staying in contact. And then before that, right after I had met him when I was working for the shop where we got the wheel sandblasted, he was like, hey, I got an open house. Come check it out. Yeah. So that's when he were in Longwood. So me and my wife went over there. We checked it out. And I was like, this is what I want to do for sure. So then that's when we started getting in more contact every couple of weeks. And then finally I get the call, are you ready? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, I'm ready for you. How long before you can start? And I was like, well, I'm a man of my word, so I got to give my boss 2 weeks. And he goes, I respect that. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I said, all right,
that's
done.
Cool. Yep.
So I got over there, and we've been building some cool stuff ever since.
So if that was in Longwood, what cars were you building at
The
that?
C10
Yeah,
C10,
the black one.
Well, he came to work when we moved into after we moved into
the shop here now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's when I started working there.
And so, right, at the time, what do we have in the shop? C10.
The C10 was there.
SSR was
SSR was kind of being messed with.
Chevelle, Charlie
Chevelle was there, and then of course
John Ray's Nova, maybe.
John Ray's Nova. But Don's dad's truck was there at the show. There was a couple of things there at the little grand opening. Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Nice. So you've worked on a ton of stuff now over 8
Yeah.
years. What has been your favorite build?
It's a toss-up, man. There's so many cool things that we build.
It's the hardest question ever.
I know, right? And it's like the things that we build it's ruined me for cars just because of what we do. And it's like you just pick cars apart now.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. But there's so many cars like Butch's is Nova is one of my top favorites, right? But
Yeah.
it's one of
Silver,
those
red
cars.
interior.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's one of those cars where we didn't do the whole car.
Right. Butch built a lot of it.
Butch did a lot of himself, which is another to be able to work alongside of the owner is even better experience than even just building a car for somebody.
Oh, that's cool.
It's so cool, because they really respect the work that you do, and then you respect the work that they do, and it's like a whole different feeling when you talk to these guys because they see what you do, and then when they come talk to you, they have all the respect in the world. They're just not some guy that's just paying you money, hurry up and finish my car.
Right.
So, Butch's car was really fun to do, and it's a really nice car. But then Dino's car had so much fabricating, the 632 69 Camaro that we have right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Now,
also is the black one.
Yes.
With the custom interior.
Yes. So we didn't get to build that car. So it's such a toss-up because it's not a car that we fully built, but it's a car that we had so much.
Dino
what did you guys
Dino
not
built
do?
a lot of that.
Dino did almost
really?
all of it. Yeah.
Dino
Really?
bought that car as a stock vehicle.
Okay.
That was pretty nice. And he had ideas of what he wanted to do, and he's a capable guy, but he's a skyscraper supervisor. You know, he has a demanding job. But in his side time, because he seems to have 80 hours a day in his week or something, because he that's one man that accomplishes more than anybody in the world that I've ever met. And so he mini tubbed the car, put a Detroit speed suspension, dropped the 632 skip white motor in it, built 4-inch exhaust for the whole thing all the way back all himself, and had sanded and polished the car himself, and had a
tucked his own bumpers.
Pretty nasty car. I mean, by all rights, it was done.
Right.
Yeah.
And he wanted a custom interior, and that's kind of where it started. Kareem from Superior Detailer, he did a big detail on it, and they were talking, and Kareem recommended us, and started out as I was going to do some cool custom things, and he kind of asked me to throw some ideas, and so really it started out from that dash drawing.
Yeah.
And I drew a dash, and usually if I'm drawing something custom, I don't take into consideration what it takes to make it. I just draw it how it looks cool.
Yeah.
You have the vision.
Yeah, then we figure that out later.
And so I drew it. It looked cool. Dino saw it. He thought it looked cool. He wanted to do it. We started to execute, and we went in deep.
Yeah.
And
it's
I mean, and we ended up with, Thomas made the whole entire dash from scratch, and it's not just a couple bends and a gauge pod. I mean, it looks like factory-ish, if you will. It belongs in the car, but it's different, but it looks right. And, we was really adamant about having a race-inspired feel to the car, specifically requested no sound deadening in this,
And no radio.
Right.
Because the motor is the radio.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful tune.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, push button start there on the.
Well,
it's got a toggle switch.
Toggle.
The push button is what we call the burnout button. That's a line
yeah?
lock. Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Like he's rowdy. Like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
He wants to have fun with it. It's a strong.
So
running
everything's on toggle.
No kidding.
You know, we have old school odometer gauges. You know, it's in the dash with the speedometer, and but we laser cut bezels for it. We design the integrated indicators and match that design to the shifter bezel with the line lock and the 6-speed indicator that has a light that transfers from red to yellow for shift light. And,
Okay.
you know, is kind of just endless of if we thought of something cool, we did
Do it.
You know,
Yeah.
and he would come in and, you know, there's a lot of times we get deep in a car and sometimes customers don't understand, the time it takes. And there's been plenty of times Dino's pulls up and I'm like, oh, today's the day.
Today's the day.
He's going to be like, all right, we need to calm this down. And
Right.
instead he gets out of his truck and he's like, I got an idea. You're going to hate me.
And his smile is from ear to ear.
Is it? That's
oh my
awesome.
god. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I mean, the authority he allows us to make decisions on the car. He's like, I don't know, what do you think's cool?
Yeah.
You know, and like I'll say the same thing to Thomas. You know, Thomas like, hey, we're thinking this or that. I'm like, I don't know, what do you think? Thomas isn't gonna throw a dumb idea on it. So
Right.
We had a perfect example. We had to move the seats in the car. Dino's a tall guy, and the seats had to go down, I think, 2 or 3 inches, and back like 5 or 6. I'm retarded. So we had to cut the floor out and weld this big plate in and all this stuff. Well, the seat was rubbing on the side of the floor where the seatbelt would go. So
Okay.
it's like, we could notch this. He's standing there. I was like, we could just notch this part out. And he goes, well, why don't we just take out that whole edge all the way down the floor? And I was like, well, that's probably the most expensive, hardest way to do it, but that would be the best way to. We'll go ahead and do that. And I was
Right.
like, so we literally had to cut the whole section out of the floor and then tilt it at a 45, so as the seat goes back and forth, because it wasn't meant to be that far back
Right.
for everything to clear. And he was just like, yeah, that's going to be the only way to do it correctly. Let's do it. And I was like, all right. Most people are like, well, is there any way you can get around that?
Right.
No. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of things where he has ideas and they've spiraled into this huge part, but he knows that. And that's the
Right.
that's the good thing, again, about working with these kind of customers is they know exactly. They have an idea, and he knows what it's going to take to do that.
I love it
Yeah.
when they know how to work on a car because they are the easiest to understand
When
what it
something
takes.
doesn't work or
Right.
what
Yeah.
it takes or
Right.
I mean, it's hard to comprehend for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, okay, so your background's in stereo.
mostly.
So the H1, that had to have been,
That was fun.
yeah, that had to have been a
Yeah.
blast to put that together. You had a lot of input on that, I would assume.
Yeah, we had some ideas, and you know the car audio thing's always been a strong background for me, and I've learned throughout the years on how to make things just sound okay without doing a lot of modification. And we had that. The Hummer was a very crazy thing. It was a soft top.
Mm-hmm.
There's no room.
Yep.
Believe it or not, there's no room in them things.
The tunnel's this high.
It's this. This is the tunnel. We're sitting
Right.
across for the, like we would
Right.
be in all 4 seats
We
right
can
now.
have a
Right.
podcast in that car with plenty of room on
Right.
the console.
So we're going back and forth, and we had so many things that had to work in that truck. The whole interior had to be made of something that wouldn't get weathered because it's soft top. The top comes off, and then everything in it's marine. So it's all JL audio equipment, but it's marine, just in case it gets caught in
tops
the weather.
off, right.
And then the boxes, the enclosures, they're made out of marine starboard, just like what you would build a subwoofer enclosure for a boat for. And the way that the back seats were, it was like there's a perfect amount of room to shove a plastic box under each rear seat.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and then I think it's a total of like 8 mids and highs. I think we had 4 in the back and 2 in the front, like 2 down. Thing sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So what is your choice brand
It's
equipment?
JL audio.
Yeah.
I'm a snob.
They just deliver.
They do, and
Yeah.
it's hard. I dealt with them 20 years now, probably,
Yeah.
and I've toured their facility. They're in Miramar, Florida. So
Oh, okay.
most of their equipment they had to go to Chinese stuff too because Kicker and everybody else was doing it, and they had to make a certain price point. So their first entry level stuff is Chinese made, but their high end, top quality stuff, all their high end subwoofers come out of Miramar, Florida. All their amplifiers that are top end, they come out of Phoenix, Arizona.
I see.
And you can go to Miramar and you can tour their facility. And most of the JL audio guys are old MB Court guys. They're all audiophiles. Yeah. And just the equipment is made to sound good. It's like a sound quality equipment, if you will. There's certain stuff out there that's meant to just be loud. You know, I got over that, like, let's just be loud and boom. Like, you want it to sound good, clear, crisp. And like, we just did a truck, Jay's truck. We went with a pretty expensive woofer. We went with a really expensive amp, but we went with the mid-level, mids and highs. It just sounds so good. I mean, you can spend the extra money, and to certain people can't hear the difference. Some people can. But if you stick with that mid-level at least, it's just going to be such an amazing, proper installation, proper placement of the speakers is all important too. But, you know, it's definitely fun. You know, it's another aspect. It's like picking the right engine package and the right transmission and the right rear end. Like, everything has to be right.
So what would you say is your favorite part in the shop to work on? Is it the audio? Or
no,
is
it's
it
actually
more...
sheet metal.
Oh, no kidding.
It's building stuff. Like,
modifying and forming?
The way that we work together, I'd like for him to hand me this piece of paper with a drawing on it, and then I give him a part back.
Okay.
And just ever since I was a kid, I didn't like to do any type of jobs that didn't have any positive outcome.
Right.
Something as simple as I did landscaping. I could pull up to a house, it looks like crap. I cut the grass, it looks better. If I didn't have a job where there was a positive outcome, then I wasn't happy with it. So, like, building things to me is just amazing. Like, just to take something and make it into something else. I mean, it could be the stupidest thing, and it's just fun to do. Like, we just turned a cap.
Right.
And that was just so exciting because we took something and just changed
it.
Yeah. We just changed it. But, you know, that's the fun part, you know.
Yeah.
The car audio stuff I can do quickly, and it's fun because I am building stuff too, you know, just out of different type of substrates. But sheet metal stuff and the welding and making things is just, it's amazing. Like, I just wish we could just make stuff all day.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, now that Street Metal Concept is expanding and we're in that new facility now, what do you see for goals and dream direction for the shop? What do you see and envision?
Well, now that we have
forward?
More space, you know, hopefully we can get not better, but more tooling.
Okay.
More guys, obviously, and we can start just making. You know, the space is what's been killing us this whole time.
Yeah.
You know, we can turn out a very nice product in the smallest space possible. You know how many people come to our shop right now and are like, wait a minute, you built that here?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're like, they look at the interior in that 632. All that's pretty much made in-house. We have one bead roller in the corner. We have this little break over here.
Yep.
And our fab area is a little bit bigger than this table.
Yeah,
and
I know.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
Like, so we're not letting the small size, you know, hinder us. We're still doing it, but we could be way more productive and be, you know, even better once we get into this larger facility.
I mean, the space opens up the comfort of production.
Exactly.
It's more of a business end of help, you know, where we're going to make it no matter. I mean, we used to make stuff in driveways, you know, before any of this. So it's not wow, we get to build stuff under a roof. This is like luxury.
I don't have to stop every time it rains.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, I mean.
And you said your mom worked at a machine shop, right?
She did. She did the books for a machine shop.
Okay.
So I had my motor built there.
Witnessed lathes and everything else back in the day. So.
That was, it's fun. Like, to get started so soon, I think, was the best thing for me, because I was doing the car audio at 16. So I was literally riding my bike to a shop and working and riding it back home until my car was up and running. So I started in the industry pretty young.
Yeah.
And, like, a lot of people will come up to the shop now and they'll be like, how old are you?
Yeah.
Like, you look way too young to be, I started pretty young, so.
So do you desire to ever find that Camaro again, or you
so
let
now,
that thing go?
Now that Roadster Shop built that one, absolutely.
Oh, which one?
The C28 with the LT4 in it.
Yeah,
it's white
with the blue.
With the blue stripes.
So mine was similar. It was an 80, but it was a Berwin Letta, but I put all the Z28, everything fenders with the vents, the hood scoop, which I found at the Turkey Rod Run when I was like 16 years old. I went with one of my friends, and the guy had the hood scoop laying against this car, and it was the right one, because 79, 80, and 81 all had hood scoops, but they were different. One was rear cowl, one was front. This was the right one. And I walked up to him and was like, "Hey man, how much for that hood scoop?" And he goes, "You ain't gonna put it on no damn Mustang, are you?" I said, "No sir, no sir, I have a 1980 Camaro." And he goes, "Give me $35 for it." And I was like, "All right." So I went back to my buddy, because we rode in his dad's T-bucket there.
Yeah.
I was like, "Can we get this home?" He's like, "We'll figure out how to make it." And then I bought it, and I went home and stuck it on the car immediately.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, score.
Well, your journey, it's had its challenges, but it seems like you've landed a good home. I mean, you've been there 8 years. That's pretty damn dedicated.
Yeah, I told Zip when I pushed the toolbox in, I said, "You're gonna have to push it out, because I'm not moving." I stuck a big sticker on it. I'm like, "It's here."
Zip, do you have any stories that come to mind that Thomas was able to bail you out of a tight bind, or anything that you can think of?
Oh, too many.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Thomas is honestly just such an amazing technician and dude. You know, like I feel like part of the, well, I don't want to say problem, but, you know, a restriction in our business is the restriction of the skill, you know, because how confined we are, you know, and so, like, I'm excited to see what a better flowing working system does for him, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I already put a bug in his ear. Like, that back room would be a cool, you know, machine room.
Yeah.
Let's get some cool tools in there, and it would be a blast to see what you can build and see what comes from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's we get ideas, and then we want to build them, and we don't let it slow us down. I don't know how many times we talked about something, we'll just make it, and then we make it and it works, or then we start making it, and then we're like, okay, he's like, okay, we'll do this and do that, and then we figure it out and make it work. So,
well, it's really cool too to see how doors open. I mean, the C10, the blue one. Gosh, what is the name of the shop, or the name of the business that he owns?
JFab.
Yeah, JFab. How are you able to connect with them and be able to utilize them for?
Yeah, I mean, he has machines we can never afford ever in our lives.
And then why would we need to if we can work alongside them? Like, that's another thing. It's like, why spend the money to have such a machine when it's so easy for us to utilize him? And we can.
Those machines need to be turning
all day. What he's doing, exactly what he's
doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And we could never do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, to be able to whip something up and have him cut it, and then, you know, there's a couple of pieces that him and his brother cut for us for that Camaro.
Yeah.
And it helped us out a lot, because there's certain small things that no matter what you do, if you're trying to cut them by hand, you'll spend more time finessing them into a perfect piece than if you were to have somebody laser them. So there's a couple of very small trim rings and stuff that needed to be lasered or water jetted or whatever. So it's nice to be able to utilize that. But again, we're at this space now. We're going to fill it fast.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
And then where are we going to put a laser and a water jet?
Yeah.
So
It's just always, it's never enough space.
It's always spiraling.
I know. But there's plenty. Well, I don't know if you can expand here or not, but you do have a pretty big lot.
Yeah. But again, still too, it's still self-gratifying to both of us too, and we're building things still old school ways.
Right.
Routers and it's like we're turning out the same things that some of these higher end shops are doing with all this really expensive equipment.
I know.
And it's handmade. It's still handmade. So we'll continue to do that until we don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's just a cool story. I appreciate you sharing with
problem.
us, and also sharing, you know, your son's desire. Obviously, you instilled that into them, and they were able to, you know, really kind of dive into their own cars that speak to them. They're not necessarily classic muscle cars, but still have that JDM.
Oh, they love the JDM, and it's another thing too. As strong as they love it, I went through the same path too, and I try to just give them a little insight of what they should and shouldn't do.
Right.
I built a 240 when I was younger and did the whole Sylvia conversion and this, that, and the other. And a lot of the parts interchange except for body panels. So like a Sylvia front bumper, if you get one from Japan and you pay to have it shipped over here, and then you bump into something and you destroy that bumper cover, it's not like you're going to order a Sylvia bumper cover online. You got to get another one from Japan. Hope it's in good shape. So certain parts of it is really cool.
Right.
But you just got to remember, if it's a car you're going to drive every day, you should probably not go that route. So they've been learning slowly, but most of their cars now are the U.S. version of what they want, and then that way everything kind of works together. I'm sure once they have money, they'll probably dabble into like real, like I'm gonna get a Sylvia Skyline and because that's what they really want.
I know.
So, but the path I was trying to go with is buy that one and then just drive it normal, then keep this one and drive it every day, so that you're not getting rock chips and bumping bumpers on your JDM car you can't get parts for.
It almost seems like this area too, just Central Florida, is becoming the new, well, it's the East Coast of what Los Angeles was in the car scene, you know, where Boyd Coddington took off and all of those guys. Now it seems like it's kind of here, you know what I mean? Like with the JDM stuff, Adam LZ has his place here. A lot of the drift guys are moving here as well.
I'm going to probably say it has a lot to do with our lack of rules and regulations.
Yes, it has a tad bit to do with
Wild
that.
West.
Because that's the reason why I stay here. I mean, this, like, my brother lived in still lives in Virginia, and anything on your vehicle that is not stock is illegal.
Yep.
Literally anything you change is illegal. He was a recruiter for a little while, and he was going to get some of them stupid little spinner hubcaps to put on the recruiting car to drive around. They're illegal.
No kidding.
The first spinners came out, then they did those little SpinTech add-on spinners that you could buy.
Yeah.
Those are illegal. If they bolt on, they're illegal. If they're a true spinning wheel, you're allowed to have them, but if they're an add-on, you can't have them.
Yeah.
And then every year they're going through their inspections. He had an Escalade with 24-inch wheels on it. When he turned it lock to lock, the tires would barely touch the frame and wear the paint off. Didn't pass inspection because the tires touched.
No kidding. Wow.
It's like, I don't want to deal with any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that some of it, if it is a problem to be on the road, I can see where it's an unsafe vehicle thing, but like window tints, absolutely illegal. You know, just so much stuff. I was like, I don't want to deal with any of that. I love our lax state. Our weather's better, except for the humidity, but I'd get over snow any time to try to do what we do in other states. But
And all right, well, I appreciate you sharing everything with us, and just a few other notes that I have here. So YouTube channels. So just kind of share what we're all currently listening to right now, or watching rather. One of my favorite is Cletus McFarlane. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I watch a lot of Cletus stuff.
Have you seen that one?
A little bit.
Yeah. So the Freedom Factory, and how Garrett Mitchell was able to literally buy a track in Florida and just do wicked cool stuff, and has all these events and everything. That's definitely a YouTube channel that as soon as a new video pops up, that's a go-to for me and everything. Thomas, do you have a favorite on YouTube you're watching right now?
I watch him a lot. I just feel like he's a YouTuber that gives back a lot to the community.
Oh, dude,
like most of them don't, and he's doing everything he can, like bought a racetrack so that his fan base can literally come to him and see these events
so much fun.
And do stuff. But I do like to watch a lot of metal fab videos. I do watch a lot of Classic Car Studios is a builder series where they're always building stuff. There's a guy in Canada I watch. His name is it's a video. It's Jap Hands. He's a Japanese, and it's Jap Hands.
Oh, that's
and he
funny.
He does like he does crazy metalworking with the least amount of tools like we do now. Like, here, this is how we made press dies. This is how we make this. And so I try to watch things that, you know, I'm always learning. I always want to learn more. So I don't watch TV much at all. I listen to music a lot, or I'm watching videos on how to do stuff.
Okay.
So there's a lot, or I watch other people's builds. So can kind of get ideas of what other people are doing, you know, because this industry is constantly changing, So we're always trying to figure out, like, what's the new coolest thing, you know, what's everybody doing, what would make this car stand out from other cars. So, you know, a lot of stuff like that. I'm mostly just car stuff.
Yeah. Zip, what are you watching lately?
I don't have much time for much.
Yeah.
I don't either. It's usually like
I
9:30.
try to catch a Netflix show with my wife when I can. But usually if I get a little bit of time, I kind of been watching and listening to Roaster Shop's Oil and Whiskey.
Yeah.
Is about the only thing I really have time for, and that's like maybe once a month.
Yeah.
That I have time to, and it's like 3 or 4 hours. I usually fall asleep before it's over.
Yeah.
But
they pop up on mine too, and I'm like, I usually
like
send
it
him
a
a
lot
link.
for the, for me, who are we? Well, we're dudes trying to build shit, and nobody knows who we are, and that doesn't really matter, But I like to see people who are very well established in this industry and hear their stories, and there's a lot I take out of it as perspective in the business and choice. I mean, we have a wait list that is 60 miles long, and it probably shouldn't be as long as it is, as far as the kind of work we're accepting, and like I've learned that from watching that podcast, honestly. It's like been really solid advice that has been a repeat theme from all these well-known builders, and it's helpful, and I don't know what otherwise I'm watching Outer Banks or some
whatever's on
a
Netflix
show, and having some time with my family.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of YouTube, is just how many stories that are out there, it's just, and I always joke about it, like YouTube University. You get stuck doing something and you're like, oh crap, how do I fix this? And there's an answer somewhere on YouTube, somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's, it's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. There's people that just rely on YouTube for information, and it's not all correct information out there, but there is some good information out there. I'm like, man, our shop probably has 10 to 20 how-to videos a day that aren't being videoed.
I know.
That's
true.
We've already had this conversation.
Could probably be very helpful. I mean, we've taken the time to finish the engineering that should have been done before the part was sold.
Yep.
Which is a very common occurrence in this industry.
Yeah.
And it can be extremely helpful to a lot of people, especially home builders.
Yep.
To know this with this works every time.
Yep.
And that's the combination. Use that; it'll never screw you. And I mean, we have just an unlimited list of that kind of stuff.
Oh
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even YouTube, like sometimes you'll do something, you're like, man, that took way too long,
Right.
and you know it.
Right.
And you're like, let me go to YouTube, and you'll just see something that somebody else did that could cut the time down.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily you didn't know how to do it, but maybe there's a corner or there's
Yep.
a trick that you didn't quite know.
Yep.
And then you just dramatically like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yep.
Or I can go the complete opposite way. I bought a Excursion V10 with knowledge that there was manifold leak. And so I bought the truck. I'm like driving home, looking up shit on it, and so it's a common occurrence in these V10s that the exhaust manifold studs. Ford bought a stud that was inferior quality and rotted out, and so they would just toast out in peace. And so I bought a set of 20 studs and was like, all right, this weekend I'm going to knock this out. So let me familiarize myself with it. And so I found this video, and this dude pulled the whole top end of the motor apart, heads off, drilling out studs on the bench, and and I'm like,
For sale.
but those are facing the plastic inner fenders. And so I brought my truck in, I jacked it up, took the wheels off, took my inner fenders out in like 7 minutes, and there are all 10 studs on each side in my face. And, most of them were busted off already. I was able to weld a nut onto it and get it out. Some of them were broke off inside the aluminum head. I just run a bead until it comes out and weld a nut to it.
Yep.
I think I had 2 I had to drill out, and 8 hours later, I had the exhaust manifold sandblasted and hot coated and all reassembled, and I drove home.
Yeah.
And I was like, that poor guy.
Only if you filmed it then,
Right.
you would be at least close to millionaire off YouTube now, because you saved everybody that had
450,000 views.
Right.
But who's
right.
got time for that?
Yeah. Well, we'll work towards
That's why you need just a camera on your back.
Yep.
All the time.
All the time. Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys just work on just so many different things, from the Audi R8 to the suicide door Continental. It's just, yeah, you literally could just film everything you do, and it would have just
Our
awesome
new uniform
following.
is going to be camera hats.
Yeah, right. Well, of course, out of the shows that we watch and listen to, the Muscle Car Place is always a go-to definite that we want to direct everyone to. So the Muscle Car Place, Kibbe and Friends. Kibbe and Friends is a show that features the Dukes of Hazzard episodes and different movies and everything else that our friend Robert Kibbe hosts. And then the Muscle Car Place is kind of the how to learn from this industry and understand the do's and don'ts in this industry. So definitely check out those 2 shows. We love Robert, and we love what he's able to produce.
Yeah, I mean, he just, the people he's able to talk to and have conversations with, and it's really a cool look inside the industry.
Yep. And just being able, people open up and just kind of are totally honest on what works and what doesn't in their industry, and that's what we need to know. And then also we want to direct viewers to check out FACTORYISH.com. We do have, right now, with our first sponsor, with Flex Tread floor mats, we're focusing on Jeep JL and JT, so the Gladiator and the Wrangler floor mats, which are also licensed through Jeep, so it has all the different logos, Wrangler, Sahara, Rubicon, Gladiator, and everything else on those mats, which makes it unique, and be able to personalize it, select the colors you want. He also has 2 different styles of camouflage mats too, that these are prints that are like permeated, is that the right word?
Yep.
Yeah. Into the rubber that they just simply won't wear out. So it's also just a really cool product. And what I also love about Martin Beckenbach is the owner of Legendary Auto Interiors. He's also the owner of Flex Treads floor mats. So it's a American-made company. It's up in New York State, and everything is made right here. And he's really a awesome guy that dives deep into manufacturing and tooling. Like, that's his toolbox that he goes to. He makes all these tools that are, doing the injection molding of these mats and everything else. So it's more than just literally a floor mat. It's just something that's super cool, American made.
His mind is definitely on another level than most reproducers of parts. Right. We've had e-body door panels from other companies, and Legendaries are like, that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it goes. It's the go-to when you want it OE correct. You want the right grain in it. You want the right color. Don't waste with the other ones. Legendary is the go-to one. Yep. And Martin puts that passion and that desire even into these floor mats as well. Also go to FACTORYISH.com to check out all of our apparel and be able to support the show. So if you don't have a Jeep, JL or JT, grab a T-shirt. So
support us.
Yes, please. And make
or
sure
if you have a Jeep, grab a T-shirt to wear in your Jeep with your floor mats.
With your floor mats. There you go. And as always, we want you to like and subscribe to the channel, and also make a comment down below. We'd love to hear from our viewers and listeners and be able to connect that way, and whatever questions you may have concerning whatever it may be, the direction in a shop or what have you. We'd love to be able to instill and give some wisdom in that as well. You've been through a lot of ups and downs, so whatever knowledge we can pass along, that's the joy of being able to have this avenue to be able to share these things with. Yep. And besides that, guys, I think that'll wrap up the show.
Yes, sir.
So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Yep.